cosine function. Okay, so as we get going with the cosine function, you're going to see that this is very, very similar to the sine function. If you were comfortable doing the sine function, you'll be somewhat comfortable doing the cosine function. So the sine function, remember when we compared the unit circle to the actual sine function, it was comparing the y values. So as the y values went up over here, the x values, the y values here corresponded with the y values here. Now they're doing sort of the x values. So as my x value is starting at 1, so the very first x value I have starts at 1, so that's why my function starts up here at 1. And as this value gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, it approaches 0. This is 0 on my x, right? So it's going to go 0, 0, and closer to 0. And then again, it's going to get further away from 0, or it's going to get, further away from 0 until I hit -1. So then it does that here. Then it gets closer and closer and closer to 0, and then all the way back to 1 until you've completed the whole thing. So the cosine function looks a little different than the sine function. So we're going to first interpret that a little bit, this information right here. Okay. So, sorry, let's find the domain of the function. So remember, your domain are your x values, right? So I'm looking for all the x values. So again, if this function goes on and on and on in both directions forever and ever, which it does, the x values are all real, or infinitely many, right? It just continues going. Find the range. So again, what are the y values of this function? So again, the lowest part is here at -1, and the highest is here at 1. So the range, the y values are between 1 and -1. Find the period of the function. So how far does the function go, beginning to end, before it repeats? So it goes between 0 and 2 pi. So the period is 2 pi. And then the amplitude, how far up and down does it go from its center? So there it is. It goes up 1 and down 1, so the amplitude is 1. Examine the cycle of the cosine function in the interval 0 to 2 pi. Where does the maximum occur? So the highest value. And some of you might say, well, that occurs twice because there's 2 of them. There's 1 at 0 and there's 1 at 2 pi, and you're correct. So where does the maximum occur? At 0 and also at 2 pi. Where does the minimum occur? So here's my minimum, and that occurs at the point pi. And where do the zeros occur? So where does it cross the x-axis? Crosses at pi over 2, and it crosses at 3 pi over 2. Okay, so pretty easy to interpret the graph. Those are some easy questions for you to answer. And so now we're just going to look at the properties, and then we're going to practice testing them since you guys were pros at doing the sine wave. So again, we're dealing with this equation, y equals a times the cosine of b theta. A is your amplitude, as usual. The absolute value of a is the amplitude. That's no different than the sine wave. So again, that's your max minus your min divided by 2. B is the number of cycles. From 0 to 2 pi, so no different. And the period is 2 pi over b. Okay, and that's how long one cycle is. All right, let's practice sketching a few of these. So we're going to start with this one. Sketch y equals 1.5 cosine 2 theta. So again, we need to figure out a little bit about what's happening here. So we have pi over 2. Oops. We have pi over 2, half of a pi, 1 full pi, 1.5 or 3 over 2 pi, and 2 pi. So go ahead and mark those a little darker on your paper. Okay. So So our amplitude is 1.5, or the absolute value of 1.5. So that means from my halfway mark, it's going to go up 1.5, and it's going to go down 1.5. Okay? So let's mark that on our graph. 1.5, and down 1.5. Okay, so there are our marks. We're going to determine the period now, so we're going to look at our function, and we're going to see that this is b, so the period, 2 equals, and then to get the equation for the period is 2 pi over b. Okay, so that's where we're going to go ahead and figure out what b is. Cross multiply. Put this over 1, bottom to top, top to bottom, and bottom to top. So 2b equals 2 pi. Divide both sides by 2, and b equals pi. So I know that my function has to begin and end from 0 to pi. So let's start thinking about this. Beginning and end. So this is my halfway point, okay? But the cosine function, remember, starts at the top and dips down halfway and then goes back up to the top. So it's going to start up here. So remember that, and I should probably not have put those on here. Remember that with the cosine, start up here, it's going to go all the way down, and then it's going to come all the way back up here. So this is going to be your cosine function, and you can do it again if you want to. So you're going to go down and up. Okay? All right, a couple more. So I'm going to give you some functions, and then we're going to practice them. So number 1, I want you to sketch y equals the cosine of 2 pi. So if you want to, you can stop the video, try it, and then start the video back again and see if you did it right. So we're going to just make sure that we do pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Okay? So the number in front of the cosine is 1, so that means my amplitude is 1. I'm going to go up 1 and over 1. I'm going to go up 1 and down 1. Okay? And then I'm going to figure out what the period is, so I know where to begin and end. So 2 equals 2 pi over b, cross multiply. So 2b equals 2 pi, we just did this one, divide by 2, b is pi. So this is essentially one that we just did, except that the amplitude is different. So we're going to start with the cosine. Start here and end at pi, remembering that the minimum value is right smack dab in the middle right there. So we're going to go down and up, and we can do it again if we want to, down and up. Okay? The second one I would like you to do, y equals -3 cosine theta. Now, we said A has to be positive, right, because it's the distance above and below that center line. So we're going to go 3 above and 3 below. But here's the deal. Here's what's going to happen with it. A is, in fact, 3. So 3 above and 1, 2, 3 below. That is definitely what we're going to do. The problem is we have to figure out what does that negative in the front mean. So think back to parabolas and cubic functions and all of those functions. When there was a negative in front, it meant that we had reflected the graph of the figure. So we're going to, instead of having our cosine function start at the top, go down, and then come back up, it's actually going to do the opposite of that, because we are sort of reflecting it over the line of symmetry. So we're going to start down, and we're going to go up, and then go down. So this is positive A, and this is negative A. So this is what happens when we reflect it, okay? So let's first figure out, again, no number in front of theta, so that means that it's 1. So 1 equals 2 pi over b. We are going to cross multiply, top to bottom, bottom to top. So 2 pi equals b. So my function is going to begin and end at 2 pi. Remember, it's reflected, so I'm starting down here, and I'm going to end down here, and in the middle, which would be at pi, is where the maximum is going to occur. That's way up here. So I'm going to go up here, and then back down. Awesome. Okay. The third function, y equals cosine pi over 2 theta. So half of a pi, 1 whole pi, 1 and a half, or 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Same thing over here, pi over 2, pi, 1 and a half, or 3 over 2 pi, and 2 pi. Okay, so a is 1. Right? It's going in the proper direction this time, it's not reversed. And pi over 2 is equal to 2 pi over b. Cross multiply, top to bottom, bottom to top. So I get pi times b equals 4 pi, divide by pi. So b equals 4. So our graph doesn't really help us, right? B equals 4. You can think about it like this. There are 4 units here, right? You could think about this like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And my amplitude was 1, so up 1, down 1. And I'm going to just mark off my beginning. Remember, cosine starts at the top, so beginning and ending, and halfway is where the minimum occurs. This is going to be kind of a really flat-looking cosine. Not a lot of wave to that guy. All right. Last one, y equals negative cosine theta pi. Again, the negative means reflected. I'm going to have to be careful about that. A is 1. So up 1, down 1. And then I have to do pi equals 2 pi over b. Top to bottom, bottom to top. So pi times b equals 2 pi, divide by pi. And this time b equals 2. Again, you can think about this like 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's mark off our beginning. Starts up here, and it's going to end at 2, because the period is 2. And halfway is where it makes the minimum. So we're going to go down and up, and you can do it again if you want to finish the graph, down and up.